Welcome back. It's time for business, and Daryl Kwao joins me in the studio. Daryl, I understand that the industry have been, talking about the expectations of government with regards to tax cuts and all of that.
Yes, Araba, they're asking government to scrap pre-production taxes. Now, those are taxes on raw materials and other minor operations before real production. And so we'll be getting more on that. Plus, I'll tell you how the Bank of Ghana is planning to stabilize the city.
All right, good news. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Business on Joy News Prime. Now, the private sector expects government to scrap what it terms pre-production tax from the current list of taxes for private businesses. That forms part of the stimulus package government is planning for businesses. Now, they're saying that the Minister for Trade and Industry designate Alan Tremantin reaffirmed government's commitment to providing the stimulus package to support the private sector to boost competition on the international market. But in an interview with Joy Business, the CEO of the Association of Ghana Industries, Chum Akwaba, demanded government should do away with taxes imposed on raw materials and other minor operations.
During the peak of the power outage period in the country, businesses agitated for a stimulus package from government to help cushion the impact of high energy costs on their operations. Minister designate for Trade and Industry, Alan Tremantin, appearing before Parliament's Appointments Committee, promised that the Akufo-Addo-led government is prepared to support industrial growth through the provision of a stimulus package for businesses and industries, an idea which many, including the AGI, have described as laudable. However, CEO of AGI, Chum Akwaba, in an interview with Joy Business, stressed what industry needs will be to scrap pre-production taxes by government.
If you are producing, you know the process you go through. You bring the raw materials, you take it to your factory, you process. You're talking about 3-month cycle before you get your money back. So I pay tax on raw materials. How is it going to help me? So that's a typical one that I expect, and clearly they stated in the manifesto that they will remove it. But I'm sure it's also going to be looked at in the context of the CET, the Common External Tariffs within ECOWAS, so that it's consistent with the ECOWAS rules. The other tax that we expect is that, there was this special levy that was imposed, and there was sunset clause that by the end of 2015, that was going to be removed. It wasn't removed. It was extended to 2017. So I think the previous government envisaged that by a certain period, you have to clear those taxes. And I believe those are also highlighted in the government's plans. So I believe some of those taxes will also go away. I'm also aware that the corporate tax, they intend to reduce it to from 25% to 20%. That is also okay. So for me, the most important thing is, even when it comes to the taxes, is the pre-production taxes. Taxes before production. That is so critical, because if you're able to reduce those taxes, it reduces the costs of production and therefore makes your product more competitive.
He outlined some further challenges faced by businesses and proposed ways to overcome them.
I think you are looking at a number of things that would stir up business activities, or as the name implies, stimulate the businesses to become bigger, grow, and do well. So if, for example, for a particular company, what you need is market. Can that package have elements or components within it that address your market needs? For some, it could be raw material supply. Most of the agro-processing companies, they have a challenge with consistent and reliable supply of raw materials. So the package, if there is a proper linkage to agriculture, and there's support to be able to improve the raw material supply to such a company, it is part of the arrangement. Then for that company, it will solve its needs. I mean, some of the companies like Blue Sky, sometimes they even import their raw materials from Cote d'Ivoire. So it means that if you're able to handle that aspect and ensure regular and reliable supply of raw materials, it will stimulate the company's growth. For others, it could be technology. So acquisition of improved technology could be part of the package. And then, of course, for others, it could be finance. So finance, what kind of funding are we talking about? Medium to long term? Yes, if that is provided, it will stimulate it. So
I'm not bringing this one inside. It's nice, huh?
In other news tonight, the Bank of Ghana says its planned injection of dollars onto the market is part of a broader strategy to stabilize the city. The central bank has come under serious criticism over its decision to sell some $120 million for the first quarter of this year. Economists like Ishmael Yamson believes this strategy of releasing more dollars to halt the city's instability is not sustainable and should be stopped. But Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Abdul Nasir, disagrees. According to the governor of the Bank of Ghana, taking the decision will still afford them an opportunity to step in quickly to revise the rates. Governor of the Bank of Ghana announced that apart from the recent decision to pump some $120 million into the economy to help stabilize the city, the Bank of Ghana will be instituting some other measures to control the local currency's recent free fall in value.
Actually mentioned the BOP would support the stability of this city. You know, it's in the, yeah, okay. We've done the forecast and integrated all of that in our baseline model. Yeah. So, but we can't we can't tell you where it would be.
He also announced that the Bank of Ghana is prepared to work with government over its plan to review the IMF program.
We would have been told right away as a central bank that, hey, 5%, provide us financing for 5%. But that's impossible because we already have an MOU. The reason why there's this talk about going to have a conversation is with the fund. It's precisely because they know there's an MOU. And those are some of the things to be discussed with the fund. So I don't see any controversy about this, I think, or inconsistency, our position or the position of any other person. It's pretty obvious. I mean, yeah.
Dr. Abdul Nasir Isaaku was of the view that looking at the current development in the economy, it might not be prudent to put a limit on the number of banks that can operate in the country.
Discriminatory approach, but we have taken all of these into consideration, and I think it's an issue that we are looking at. But it's important that we don't assume a discriminatory approach to licensing of our banks. But we can build into it some incentive mechanism to enabilize or encourage indigenous participation in the banking and financial sector. And I think that's a fair approach to adopt.
He also announced additional measures that will help bring some sanity into the microfinance sector. Now, the CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Marina Cheba, is advocating a review of some policies to afford working mothers the opportunity to be more productive at the workplace. For now, certain policies are said to be discriminatory against women in the corporate world. Some, Marina Cheba says, has been speaking on affirmative action and women in the corporate world on Executive Lounge, which airs on Saturdays at 5 p.m. on the Joy News channel.
I don't think that it should be about gender. Sometimes it is, and I think those issues have to be confronted. For instance, how much time should working mothers have? And must they apologize because they're young and they're starting families? Obviously, my response to those two questions would be no. And those issues have to be addressed, I believe, certainly holistically as a nation. We need to look at the contribution of young female executives and ensure that they feel they can participate without being penalized because they're also young and because they have young families and so on. But at the same time, your output has to speak for itself. You cannot excuse mediocrity by saying that you're female and therefore somehow you should be given special consideration.
Let's then focus to the oil sector now, and former Minister of Petroleum Emmanuel Kofi-Boah says he is leaving the oil and gas sector more transparent than the erstwhile NDC government inherited. According to Mr. Boah, his administration has also improved upon health and safety standards in the sector. Speaking to Joy News on former government's legacy, Mr. Boah said the right foundation has been laid for ordinary Ghanaians to feel the impact of oil exploration in their lives.
If the energy sector, knowing, for example, that we have overhauled the whole exploration and production law, made it more transparent for Ghana, I know that we brought new regulation on health, safety, and environment that we are bringing. We have done metering regulations to ensure, for example, that when they lift oil, it is guided by law. We have brought deregulation in the petroleum downstream sector. And so there's competition, and the people of Ghana now have more choices. And it has lessened the burden on debt on the government of Ghana because of deregulation. And there's so much we've done. We have brought 3 FPSOs, increased oil production, domestic gas production is actually taking place, more exciting new exploration taking place. And I think I'm very proud of what we've been able to do. Government is a continuum. We've brought it at the corner, and we hope and pray that it will be continued. And because of this work we are doing, it will translate into better lives for the people of Ghana.